What's up, YouTube? Your boy back once again with another sports talk. I'm here to talk some football, Houston Texans football. Today we're gonna talk about, is my franchise quarterback back? Like seriously, like real talk. Is our franchise quarterback back to being our franchise quarterback? We're going to talk about, we're going to break it down before we get in there. Like we tell you, if you're liking the content, make sure you're liking the channel. Make sure you're watching all the videos, you liking all the videos, you commenting all the videos, you sharing all the videos on all social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, any type of social media platform you use. Make sure you share it on the same social media platforms. Also, follow me on social media as well. The link in the description below. We still trying to get this channel growing and growing and growing and growing. I can't do that without your help. So you know what that means? That means I need y'all to do your part. That means I need you to tell a friend, so then they could tell a friend, so then they could tell a friend, so then they could tell a friend, and then they could tell a friend, and then they could tell another friend, so then they could tell a friend, and put them on game with the channel. Really, really appreciate that. Now, let's talk about it. Like I said, are we seeing that level of player quarterback from CJ Stroud that we seen his rookie year when he won Rookie of the Year, when he was winning Rookie of the Month, when he was winning AFC Player of the Week all the time and winning AFC Player of the Month and being a Pro Bowler, and people talking about that he was a top 7 to 8 quarterback in this league and the future league MVP, and people was talking about he could lead the league in passing and he'd be a future league MVP, and people talking about the Super Bowl between him and Jordan Love and the Texans and Green Bay was going to be must-see TV and must-watch TV in the next couple of years. Are we starting to see that level of play of quarterbacking from CJ Stroud? I think we are. And I know a lot of people talk about, the last 5 quarters, the last quarter against Tennessee and the entire game against Baltimore. People been talking about that, and we're seeing a difference of level of play out of CJ. But I would actually argue that I think it's been dating back a little bit earlier than then, even before the Tennessee game, even though we've seen offensive line struggles and people have been complaining about Nick Caley's play calls and people complaining about the weapons and the weapons not getting on the field and all these different type of things. I think that we were still seeing elite level of quarterback play from CJ. Quarterback play that you can actually look to and be like, hey, that's the type of quarterback that gets us to an AFC Championship game, that gets the Texans' first ever AFC Championship game, and potentially also get the Texans to their very first Super Bowl and actually bring a Super Bowl trophy back to the city of Houston. I actually think this is dating back all the way to the Jaguars game. I think we've seen that level of play. Now I'll explain in a minute that we've seen that level of play all the way back in that Jazz game. And what we've seen for the last 2 weeks after that was just spilling over. And we actually starting to see CJ actually go back to that franchise form that we can look at to be like, hey, this guy legitimately is a top 7 to 5 quarterback in the NFL. This is an actual franchise quarterback. But we're going to talk about what he was doing before we got into the bye week. So heading into the bye week, this was CJ Stroud's complete numbers on the season. He had 102 completions off of 144 attempts. His completion percentage was 70.8%. He threw for 1,076 yards. At the time, was 14th in going into the bye week, averaging 215 yards per game in the passing. Had 8 touchdowns, which was 12th in the NFL, had 3 interceptions, and had a quarterback rating of 102. Now, like I said, that was his stats and numbers going in all the way, going back throughout the entire season. That's what he's been doing throughout all 5 games. Again, that also mustered the Texans up to a 2-3 record. Now, again, the Texans offensively have not looked good. Offensively, before this explosion that they had against the Baltimore Ravens, the Texans were the worst scoring offense in the league. They were all the way in it's one of the 20 something led a total offense, just a bottom tier offense. Now after that Baltimore Ravens game and also after that Tennessee game, it only got them up to the 20th offense, 20th scoring offense, 22nd total offense, and 19th passing offense, and 16th rushing offense. So again, the offense still not looking like you want to look. It's still a bottom tier offense outside of the running attack, which is technically middle of the pack, but everything else, scoring, total offense, and passing offense, this offense has been one of the worst offenses in the NFL. I can argue at one point in time was the worst offense in the NFL. At one point in time, it was the worst scoring offense in the NFL going to and after that Jazz game. They were the worst scoring offense in the NFL. But I do think that CJ himself has been playing well since the 4th quarter of the Jags game. That's where I think that CJ finally stepped back into, and we started seeing remnants of that franchise quarterback. So he threw an interception against the Jacksonville Jaguars, which was a horrible interception. Where, like, going into, I think it was in the end of the third quarter, going into the fourth quarter, he threw a bad interception where he just it was one of those interceptions that looked like a Trevor Lawrence interception, looked like a bad Josh Allen interception. It just looked like one of those just bad quarterbacks. Like, what were you doing? That safety was right there. What were you doing? That was just a stupid decision. Like, he didn't see. I think it was the linebacker, if I'm not mistaken. He didn't see him. He just trying to force the football in. Didn't see the defender. The defender was able to get the football out of there in the interception, and that was a bad play, no doubt about it. That was a bad play. But I think that's when something actually clicked in CJ Stroud, because what we've seen since then has been phenomenal. Now, to finish off that game, CJ to finish off that game in itself, he was the rest of that fourth quarter, he was 7 to 12, so 7 completions off of 12 attempts for through 104 yards. He had a touchdown. Remember, he had the 50-yard touchdown to Nico, and then he did throw an interception. Now, he did throw an interception, but that interception was also because of Ursery allowed Josh Allen to bring the pressure, and as the football was coming out of CJ's hands, the ball got hit out of CJ's hands. So CJ wasn't able to put everything into that throw, because as he's moving his hand back to release it, the ball, the defender is hitting his hand. So as the football's coming out, it's wobbly a little bit because CJ wasn't able to put enough onto it. End up being an interception. Now, if you look on that play, he had if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Kurt. He had Kurt wide open in the end zone, and I feel like that's who he was going to. And if that ball was not tipped coming out of CJ's hands, I believe it would have been a completion, would have been a touchdown. At that time, it would have been 17 all. And because of what we've seen, because like I said, CJ was moving the football up the field. Like, because when after BTJ caught that pass, the drive before, and he caught that, I think it was like a 47-yard reception. I was like, hey, Texans, let Jacksonville score, because CJ was moving the football pretty well in that fourth quarter, and he got the football back, and they were moving the football pretty well. Remember, the drive before that, Texans were moving the football well, and Nico fumbled, because after the touchdown, the Texans threw a touchdown to Nico Collins. They got the football back. The Texans offense was moving up the field. They were moving on the Jacksonville Jaguars. They were moving up and down the field, mostly through CJ's arm. They were moving the football up and down the field good. And then what happened was Nico Collins fumbled in the red zone. Jazz got the ball back. Then the Jazz went back there. And again, BTJ had the 47-yard reception. And then the Texans ended up letting Jacksonville score. Texans got the football back. What did the Texans do? They moved the football right down the field again. Now, again, Ursery allowed Josh Allen to get past him. And Josh Allen was able to tip the football out of CJ's hand and end up being an interception. Ultimately, a bad play. And again, when you look at statistics, people don't go into all the nuances into the statistics. They just look at it and they just like, okay, CJ threw 2 interceptions in that game. Yeah, he threw one interception that was bad, his fault. But the other interception was not his fault. Then after that, what we've seen now the last 2 games, combined with what CJ did, CJ, like I said, from that third quarter, and then we seen the last 2 games, both Tennessee, and because again, he was moving the football pretty well against Tennessee. He played pretty well against Tennessee before that fourth quarter. Now, we couldn't get into the red zone. That was a problem. That was very problematic. We weren't able to get into the red zone, but CJ himself was playing extremely well. CJ was 52 completions off of 67 attempts for 77 completion percentage, 581 yards, 7 touchdowns, that 1 interception that I just talked about. Let me reiterate that one more time. So, in the last 7 quarters of football, which would be the last 2 games, those are 8 quarters of football. Then the last quarter against Jacksonville, CJ is 52 for 67, 77 completion percentage, 581 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Now, I know some people want to sit up and talk about the Baltimore Ravens were depleted. They didn't have all those guys. They won the worst defense, if not the worst defense in the NFL. And the same thing with Tennessee. One of the worst defenses in the NFL. They got their guys, but they won the worst defenses in the NFL. And that's all true. That is absolutely true. But good quarterbacks eat on bad defenses all the time. That's not nothing new. Like, good quarterbacks, look at all those stats that Peyton Manning had. We was playing up against the bad Houston Texans back in the early 2000s in Jacksonville and Tennessee. Look at all the defenses that Tom Brady was going up against. We was going up against Buffalo when they were bad at that time. Obviously, the New York Jets and also the Miami Dolphins. Like Aaron Rodgers going up against Chicago. Detroit when Detroit was bad in Minnesota and things like that. Like we seen good quarterbacks eat on bad defenses all the time. Like well, this is nothing new. When Ben Roethlisberger was going up against Cleveland all those years, and same thing with currently Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow do right now. Like so, we're not gonna sit up and act like they're good quarterbacks when they play against bad defenses that they just take it easy. No, they go out there and they're going to go out there and they're going to get the brunt of their stats, their yards and their touchdowns. That's what a good offense is supposed to do. That's what a good quarterback is supposed to do. Now, again, I still have my reservations about Nick Caley himself as an offensive coordinator. But what I'm seeing out of CJ Stroud is different. And I don't care who was on the field. When you look at that back shoulder fade that he threw to Hutch, that touchdown he threw to Hutch, that was a good throw. That was an undefensible throw. I don't care what defender was back there. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think there was it was Wiggins that was defending him. I don't care if that was Marlon Humphreys. I don't care if that was Jalen Ramsey. I don't care if that was Pat Surtain. I don't care if it was Stingley. That was a play that a defender would not be able to defend because where CJ put the football. CJ put the football exactly where he was supposed to put it, on the back shoulder of the receiver that the receiver had. And again, think about this. When as soon as Hutch turned his head, that football was right there. As soon as Hutch went like this, that football was right there. All Hutch had to do was put his hands up. That's all Hutch had to do was do this, and the football went right there. Boom! It was a touchdown. The how he split the defenders, the touchdown he threw to Nico in that game. It don't matter who was out there. That does not matter who was out there. It don't matter what defender was out there. That was CJ being CJ. That was CJ being elite level quarterback. That's what you see. That was CJ being efficient. That was CJ being on target. That was the CJ cutting up them defenses like he did his rookie year. That's what that was. Same thing against Tennessee. When he read the defense, he seen what they was doing to Nico Collins, and he looked over at the Higgins like, hey, do this. And boom, had Higgins in the end zone. That was him. He said himself that he checked out of the play, see, throw up a route combination that he thought would work. Boom, one-on-one matchup. It worked. Touchdown. Higgins got his first NFL touchdown. Also, after the Texans got the interception against Trevor Lawrence, 50-yard boom, throw to Nico Collins, touchdown. We also seen the same thing in the Tampa Bay game as well. So we were seeing throws in the first 2.5 games, the game against the Rams and against Tampa Bay, in the beginning parts of that Jazz game. We were seeing throws throughout that game that you seen flashes of rookie level CJ. You were seeing that, but we wasn't seeing it on a consistent basis. It seems like after CJ threw the interception that was his fault against Jacksonville, because again, that second interception was more so of Ursery allowing CJ to get his hand hit, is the reason why that interception occurred. We are starting to see the level of CJ Stroud that we starting to see CJ lock in, and there's a different look in his eye, and the way he's moving is a little bit different, and it's closer to what we seen his rookie year when people were sitting up there talking about he was a top level quarterback, a true franchise quarterback. Because you can be a franchise quarterback just because you're the starting quarterback of a team, so like you're technically a franchise quarterback. When we talk about franchise quarterback, we talking about we winning because of you. Like no matter what's going on around us, we winning because of you. And that could also be slightly dangerous. Slightly dangerous. Obviously, it's going to be dangerous for the opposing team, but slightly dangerous for yourself, for your team. What do you mean by that? Why you say it could be slightly dangerous for us? Because, like I said a few minutes ago, I still, even with all this I'm saying, I don't trust Nick Caley at this point. Maybe at the end of the season, I might feel differently about Nick Caley. But as it stands right now, I don't care what we did against Baltimore. I don't care what we did against Tennessee. I still don't trust Nick Caley fully as an offensive coordinator. I don't trust his play calls, his play selections. I don't trust his personnel, who he has out there, who he's running out there. That's why I do think you need to go out there and potentially get some more help, because I think you need to kind of take some of these decisions out of his hands. And I do think that D'Amico allowing Matt Burke to call defensive plays and him being more so of an overseer of a team because, again, we hired you to be the head coach. That's what you should be doing. I do think maybe we're starting to see a little bit more, so we'll see what goes on forward. But I do think that CJ might end up being one of those quarterbacks because we've seen his rookie year that actually makes his offensive coordinator looks good. And that's a dangerous situation. And a situation, quite frankly, I don't want. I don't want CJ to make Nick Caley look good. I want Nick Caley to make CJ great. There's a huge difference in that. There's a huge difference in that. There's a difference between your quarterback making your offensive coordinator look good versus your offensive coordinator making your quarterback great. Because Patrick Mahomes doesn't make Andy Reid look good. Andy Reid made Patrick Mahomes great. You see what I'm saying? Like, 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 there's a difference. Like, Aaron Rodgers didn't make Aaron Rodgers made Mike McCarthy look good because even without Mike McCarthy, Aaron Rodgers doing this thing. You know what I'm saying? Aaron Rodgers was still doing it. Aaron Rodgers won 2 MVPs with Matt LaFleur. You seen people like Kyle Shanahan and also Sean McVay make their quarterbacks look good. And that's what CJ did his rookie year. CJ made Bobby look good, and that's the reason why you had Bobby Slowick last year. And you seen what happened because you had a quarterback make his offensive coordinator look good. That's a dangerous spot. I know on surface level it sounds good. Okay, your quarterback making your offensive coordinator look good. That's what you want. No, that's not what you want because if you have a bad offensive coordinator, you keep a bad offensive coordinator or a mediocre offensive coordinator longer than you should because you're making him look good when he's not. He's not good at his job. He's okay at his job, but because you are so good, you're making that person look good. Now, again, the way it will work out for you is that person moves on to get another job. Because remember, Bobby was getting head coaching interviews last year after his rookie year. He didn't get any jobs, and I'm thinking that maybe when he get, I think he did. I know he interviewed for the Atlanta job. I'm thinking that maybe he got to the Atlanta interview, and the Falcons were like, yeah, maybe this is not really what we want to be our head coach. Yeah, we're gonna move on in another direction and things of that nature. Because again, it was mostly, and I think they probably looked at, well, hey, was it Bobby making CJ look like that, or was it CJ making Bobby look like that? And I think that's obviously that's what it was. CJ, Nico Collins, Tank Dell made Bobby Slowick look like a better offensive coordinator he actually was. Because then when you gave Bobby all the talent in the world, he had Nico, he had Tank, he had Joe Mixon, obviously he had CJ, he had Stephon Diggs. Bobby completely just completely didn't know what he was doing. He was completely in over his head and didn't know what he was doing. That's what Caley looked like, because Caley looked worse the first 2.5 games. And even still, I take that back. He looked worse the first 4 games. Because even in the game against Tennessee, the offense didn't look good. And one of the touchdowns that we got in that explosion of offensive quarters was because CJ seen some in the defense, changed the play. Or at the very least, changed the route for Higg, and we were able to get a touchdown out of it. Now, obviously, last week, a bad defense, depleted defense, all those things that's going on with their defense. Not going to say anything bad about Caley. Caley actually did call a good game. He called a good game in that moment. I'm not going to sit up and lie. I'm going to call a spade a spade. He called a good game in that moment, and that's good for him. I don't know if he'll be able to do that consistently. Time will tell. But what I do see is CJ Stroud going back and looking like the level of quarterback that we know him to look at, the quarterback that we sat back and was like, hey, he's going to be the franchise guy. This is the guy right here. This is the guy who's going to lead the franchise to their first ever conference championship game, Super Bowl appearance, and evidently one day win a Super Bowl trophy and bring a Super Bowl back to the city of Houston. And that's what we're looking at. We're looking at a true franchise guy, the way he's out here cutting up, slicing and dicing the defense, because he is. He is. He's been for the last, I know some people want to say the last 5 quarters. I'm going to say the last 7. He's been cutting up these defenses, and we need to see him. We need to see him do it more against Seattle coming after the bye. That San Francisco one's going to be a tricky one because again, he struggled against that Cowboy defense before. He struggled with a defense going up against Robert's defense. He struggled against them defenses twice with the Jets. I know one time was coached by Robert his rookie year, and then last year the same personnel and also the same scheme, the same schematic of that defense. He struggled in. He played some of his worst football against. So I think that the 49ers game is definitely going to be a test of how CJ learned from his previous mistakes. Because we've seen defensive coordinators be able to have the edge on certain quarterbacks, no matter how good the quarterback was. We saw it with Deshaun and Eberflus. Like Eberflus when he was coaching with Indy, no matter what type of season Deshaun was having, Eberflus was able to confuse Deshaun. We've seen the same thing with the Chargers with Peyton Manning. Anytime Peyton Manning went inside San Diego at the time, those defenses gave him fits. Same thing with Tom Brady in Miami back in the day. Miami used to give Tom Brady's fits. That defense used to give Tom Brady's fits. So it's certain defensive coordinators that know how to coach against great talent, or they just know how to exploit certain quarterbacks' weaknesses because their strength of how they coach happens to be that particular quarterback's weakness. So I do think that 49ers game is a game that we definitely need to watch to see exactly how CJ looks in that game specifically. But all in all, I do think that CJ is playing at the level that we want him to play. And I think that he could potentially, especially the way this defense is playing, I think that we're starting to see that level of quarterback that we seen his rookie year, and we're starting to see him have fun again. Again, like I said last year, I was saying this all last year that CJ wasn't looking like he was having fun at all. And then I think he even mentioned him not having fun. I think we're seeing that level of quarterback right now that he is having fun out there playing football. And I think that we're going to see a difference coming out of this bye week. And I think that we're going to see more elite level playing from our quarterback in this quarterback position. Like, subscribe if you haven't, comment below if you haven't, click that bell, get more videos. I holla.